It's an old school kind of day. Guys, it's Wednesday. Welcome to Monitor Duty. I'm Reese. I'm joined by Twitless today. In the middle of an odd week, in the midst of technical difficulties, it might just be the pair of us for this whole show. Are you guys out in the internet world? Are you ready? Are you ready to hear about the Eisners?
I'm
So,
not.
oh my goodness sakes. So, little introduction for those of you who might care. You guys might remember a few years ago, I signed up to be on the on the voting panel for the Eisners. As technically a comic semi-pro, having had a couple of my edited works published by real publishers. And that let me sneak in the door. So every year I go through and read a bunch of comics that I have various feelings about, and we decided to make a show of it. So we are today reviewing. Let me see if I can't.
So the Eisners are basically for anyone
Oh
tuning in
yes,
or curious. The Eisner Awards are named after Will Eisner, who is a very beloved outsider in a sense to the mainstream comic book industry. He published what he's best known for is probably The Spirit and Contract with God, and they named basically the Oscars of comics after him. So it's meant to be our version of the Frou Frou award ceremony, and that's it really is kind of like the Oscars of comics in a lot of
yep.
ways, including with some of the uh, what appears to be the insular connections between the people who judge it and the people I think who make it. Even one thing that I wanted to point out is the fact that this year's nominations, I think there's actually an ethical quandary that needs to be addressed. So anyone coming in or on panel or off panel, how many times does Dennis Camp show up on this list? And the correct answer is not what you might think, because we see Dennis Camp under Absolute Martian Manhunter #1 and Assorted Crisis Events #4, but he's technically also in Ice Cream Man #43. He submitted a story, one of the one-page stories in that anthology piece, which means that Dennis Camp has been nominated 3 times for one category. Can you imagine being at the Oscars and they're being like nominating for Best Picture and they nominate the same director on 3 separate films? Like, just how dirty and scuzzy that would just appear to be. It would be like, man, who's that guy paying off? Who's he got backroom deals with? Because to be on the same category 3 separate times for 3 separate projects. But that's
And
what we
I'd
got
like to
here.
point out that after reading Assorted Crisis of Events #4, that wasn't my question.
That's fair. The nominations here, I think there have been better years for this category. Is my
Oh,
nice
for
way of putting
sure. We
my nice
actually
way of
picked
putting it.
this one specifically because in the past we've looked at a couple different categories, but we all were like, "There's no way we're all reading 100 books."
Yeah.
Um, and
This is
uh,
an easier category to look at because it's like a single issue. You don't have to like
right.
be knowledgeable about everything. So it's the easier one to stream about.
Well,
Um,
and that's the part of it is, but it's one of the frustrating things for me because um, I guess maybe it's just the one specific book that isn't actually a one shot, right? Um, uh, in terms of being it's a single issue, but they're like not Absolute Manhunter #1 is 100% not standalone. Like there's it's frustrating to me. We'll talk about each of the books. We'll probably look at some of the interior art and
sure.
talk about it. Where do you want to start? You want to go top down the list? Do you want to say what you think was the best and then work our way around to that, or how do you want to do this?
Well,
We
let
didn't
me
really
let me let
discuss
me
that part of
let me
it.
conclude just a couple of my because
Oh,
the
okay,
thoughts
okay.
because
Sorry, man.
yeah, no no
I'm
no we
stepping on
should
your toes.
no we definitely don't want to spend too much time belaboring that point, but I do want to say that I do think that the Eisners need its Gamergate moment where the back rooms connections between some of these people are made to be known. Reese mentioned that there are some other people who are just nominated a lot in several other categories. Did you say it was Kelly Sue DeConnick's here like 3 times in 3 separate
Well, yeah,
categories?
she has. She's one of the contributors to the Ice Cream Man
Mm-hmm.
book as well. And then she's also up for best ongoing series. I think I can't remember which ones, but
There's Dennis
yeah,
Camp again, best continuing series. Yeah, it's just like one thing that just that's it just seems very scuzzy because there are a lot of comics. And there are a lot of mainstream ones. There's a lot of what we call maybe mainstream indie things like Dark Horse and Boom and Image
yeah.
and IDW. But
James Tinian is nominated for 3 different books in 3 different categories,
yeah, this is it starts
at
feeling
least.
it starts feeling very insular. And not to like, bang the gong here about things like, Rippaverse and Comicsgate, but I'm like, one of the things that these award shows should do, in my opinion, is not just recognize talent, which this year I also don't think didn't happen, but
At least in this category.
right. In theory, what these award shows like the Oscars should also do is draw your attention to some things that you would never have thought of. Like in cinema territory, it's like Sundance and the Oscars sometimes draw your attention to films you never would have thought of. And so that can help broaden your taste.
Well,
And
and
so
when
I
it
just
comes to
go
that
ahead.
too, you were talking about the Rippaverse books and the different people associated with Comicsgate or former Comicsgate groups.
Sure.
But even outside of that, I mean, indie comics have been a thing for 50 years.
Right.
And what I think we're really seeing here is that there are a number of houses, publication houses, that are technically indie, but they've been established so long as part of this in group that they're not actually
Indie.
independent,
They're not outsider.
right? They're not
At the very
outsiders.
yeah,
They're
they're not
not actually
outsiders
doing it
anymore.
themselves, right? So like Ice Cream Man, we're talking about that. It's 43 issues. The guy has all of his buddies from the San Diego con scene that are contributing to it. I don't know the whole business, but it's an image book, right? It gets nationwide publication. This guy's not out there folding and stapling his own comics, right? Right? It's not with in all the ways it actually matters. It's not an indie project. It's an establishment project, and that's just one way of framing that. So you get people that are like doing, at least in this category, people that are out there doing the bread and butter comic work are getting looked over by just the same in club of people that are
So
that are
they're
that are folded into it.
scanning over like the rest of the list. There is a broader variety, like Oni Press shows up, Fantagraphics, the rest. But part of what I'm bringing up here is that I think that the
Right, but those
Eisners.
again, indie, Fantagraphics, those are the same kind of thing where
Oni's
they're
pretty. Oni might be. We might make the case
well,
Oni's kind of obscure, but my point in this, and I think
Oni's not doesn't have the financial push that they used to have, but they still have the name recognition.
I guess my point is that I think that the Eisners should do a better job of bringing in more outsider attention and not just lockstep with some of the like I said, what's very clearly what seems to be like an in group. Especially when you have creators who are being nominated multiple times in multiple categories, it starts to really make it look like here's the clique, here's the club. You're not in it, or you're in it. You need to be hanging out in our circle if you want to be anywhere near this, and that's just a shame. Partially because Eisner was kind of an outsider in a lot of ways. He was
Mm.
perceived to be I know the Marvel crowd saw him that way. They were like, "You're not part of the big two. You're not part of our circle." They definitely saw him that way. In some ways, they had to kind of be educated about what he did, and grow to appreciate him. I think it was Denny O'Neil
Yep.
who wrote the forward to Contract with God, who said, I didn't think this was comics basically at first. It was not my expectations. So even the guy who's this award is named after was perceived to be an outsider. And
Yeah,
so I
and
think
and
I think we could do a better job of recognizing the outsider, the award named after an outsider, by doing some more outsiders.
and that comes to one of the things that I found really is an ongoing theme through all of the works, well, except for one, is that there is this that all of the works believe they are subversive, but actually just reinforce the presiding public narrative, right? Um, it's the Spencer's gifts. It's the hot topic. of it all.
I think you're being very generous when it comes to Ice Cream Man. It was like Walmart / Spirit Halloween.
Well, I mean, but yeah, that's all the same. But
I know.
its quality is of Spirit Halloween,
Yeah.
but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the spirit of the thing, where it believes it's subversive, but it's really just, that mass market. This is the thing that everybody likes when they pretend they don't like it. It's like thinking that you're some sort of rebel of society because you like goth chicks. It's like, okay, that's not a personality.
So I guess to just give my brief summary of the entire panel here. So we've got, like I said, we have Absolute Batman 2025 Annual #1, which is, like I said, it's an annual comic, which just means that it's kind of a it's meant to be kind of a separate thing from the ongoing series. It's meant to be kind of standalone. And Absolute Batman is the really edgy Spawn looking Batman that you've probably seen on social media somewhere. It's selling and doing quite well. But
Which I do not understand.
and it's fairly controversial. I think those are the two things to say about it. It's a much more violent Batman. It's meant to be much more edgy. It's in a separate universe. It's its own continuity. It's not a reflection of mainstream Batman. But it even people who, because Graham Nolan, right, the guy who made Bane, when they did Ultimate or Absolute, I should pull this up. When they did Absolute Bane, in the comics, I think it was Graham Nolan himself said, "What the hell is this?" And it was drawn. It's drawn by Nick Dragata, mostly, and by Scott Snyder. They're the creative team who do most of the work on this. And but the annual, and this is actually really important to bring up, that the annual is actually done by a different creative team, which leads to some really bizarre, I think, differences. And it's also led to be it's Absolute Batman led to some funny memes, but this issue in particular has led to some memes. Yeah, that was the part of the Absolute thing is kind of like Ultimate Marvel. It's like, hey, we're gonna do a take on these characters that you're not expecting, and we're gonna take characters in different directions artistically and story wise. Obviously, if you're used to the mainstream versions of these characters, most of the time you're gonna have some. You may have different reactions to these. I also, because I think it was Absolute Mr. Freeze. I didn't care for. Nick Dragata just draws in a more hyperbolic, cartoony style. So like this just didn't click for Graham.
Well, if you think like by hyperbolic and cartoony, you mean like, an aborted cow fetus, then sure.
Bane's supposed to be gross.
Yeah, but
I'm
that's
kind of
not gross. It's just like it's just like it's not it's a nothing. Um
we got some engagement from chat.
yeah.
Tankertron mentioned that he said the Eisners are self-aggrandizing circle jerks, which is not far from the truth. Jim Tuner says awards are always random in what gets nominated. So my issue isn't that they're random. My issue is that I think they're not random. I'm seeing like almost collusion, where it's like, hey, we're a bunch of people who hang out and eat the same restaurants at San Diego Comic-Con, and it just so happens that we're all kind of nominating each other for not just one award, but like 5 or 6, and so inevitably you're going to get one of them at some point, and then you get to put that on your CV, don't you? So that's where it's just like it starts getting really scuzzy, and you start to kind of like I said, you kind of need that Gamergate moment to start exposing all these connections. It's just people don't care enough about comics, I think, to dig into that. Sad Robot
Yeah.
says, it is 1988. I am reading a darker, grittier Batman comic. It is 2020. Oh, he's doing the Dr. Manhattan meme.
So here's the thing about it is that like it doesn't actually like it's not darker or grittier. It's about as edgy as a hair tie. It's such a a, a limp wristed, facile, like mud for brains uh, product.
It's dark in its usage of violence for a typical Batman comic, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah.
Pushing
it has
some
lots of violence, but that doesn't make
trying to
it
push the
dark or
line.
edgy because it's just like it's it doesn't challenge the reader in the slightest. It's not the kind of violence that you actually feel. There's nothing visceral about it. It's just It's like Mortal Kombat. You guys might be too young to remember the frenzy that was Mortal Kombat
No, I remember.
in the 90s, right?
No, I remember Mortal
But
Kombat.
yeah, I heard on the radio, I heard on the TV. Oh, everybody was freaked out because they used photographs as the basis for the pixel art, and the graphics are so grotesque, and all of the blood looked like Play-Doh.
They censored it on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
They
but all of the
specifically
blood
removed
looked like Play-Doh. It really wasn't. I mean, it wasn't graphic,
in the
right?
90s it was.
Like, people thought it was graphic because they were representing what their brains were interpreting what it was, but the effects were so bad that like
They're
Robot
laughable
Chicken
now.
is more violent than Mortal Kombat.
Sure, I'm just saying at the time, like that was like it's important to remember that in the moment when you
Indiana
were playing,
Jones was more violent
when you're
than
playing
Mortal Kombat.
If you play Doom and Mortal Kombat today, it's comedic. If you played those back in the day, your mom gasped. She did. She gasped and said, "I can't believe what's on the screen. Turn that off." And that doesn't make your mom was dumb. It just means that was the extent of what technology could represent as violence at the time. And so there's a certain relativity to that.
It means we keep getting desensitized.
That is true. That is also true. But regardless, I'll pull up since we are talking about. So we have Absolute Batman #1. We have Absolute Martian Manhunter. Same continuity, a take on a character, much less I think violent, but just meant to be much more. It's basically Mindhunters. If you've seen the Netflix series, Mindhunters meets Martian Manhunter. Assorted Crisis Events is a image book about how time is breaking down, and it's best way I can describe it is that it's depression porn, not actual pornography, but just like pornographic in the sense of being gratuitous in terms of it just being ennui and depression. Coin Op #10, Wet Cement. We could only read a preview of. That's a independent crowdfunded book, and it's probably one of the more outsiders on this list. But if you're familiar with Chris Ware, that one was very. First thing I thought was Chris Ware. Other people who reviewed it mentioned Chris Ware.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ice Cream Man #43. We'll get to this, but I'm just like not to bury the lead. I will say that, and this will be a fun conversation because I believe that Ice Cream #43 is quite possibly the worst comic book I have ever read in my entire life. And then wrapping it up is Something is Killing the Children. A monster hunter walks into a bar #1, which is the free comic book day version of Something is Killing the Children.
That's a really, really good way of explaining it.
because Something is Killing Children is a recognized series, but this one shot is basically like, it just reads like a free comic book day version of the pitch.
Not only does it, we'll get to that. We'll get to it.
So, Sad Robot says, I have not read the Absolutes, but I do have an affinity for Warner Brothers Kids Batman cartoon from the I think that's the Batman, right? It had some bonkers takes on the cast, but they were kind of cool in a way. Are the Absolutes like that? Yes, but take that and go through the route of like everything's being filtered through Todd McFarlane.
And you also have to have the absolute like idolatry of poverty that Snyder has pumped into the universe.
So the take behind the entire Absolute universe is this is it's part of DC's All In, and the idea is that Darkseid committed suicide because he had the SADS. And when he committed suicide, his death caused basically a kind of like Big Bang, essentially. He created his own universe through his own death, explosion, whatever. Basically, the point is that
I didn't realize that. That is the single dumbest thing I've ever heard.
So the idea,
no, I'm serious. The way I'm
describing it might be dumb. The idea is the fact that you have an entire line of DC characters who come from a universe built upon a foundation of Darkseid, and so
Darkseid is a contingent being. It doesn't make any sense that would happen.
Well, I think it's how he died. It has to do with the fact that he's a god.
I shouldn't make you justify it. Go ahead.
I stopped giving credence to superhero comics decades ago.
Okay, hey, I like giving credence to this. It's fine. My point is that the pitch of the series is the fact that the whole universe from the ground up is going to be off. So every one of the superheroes' origins is going to be a little, like I said, couple degrees off of center. And so it's like, okay, it's Batman, but it's Batman where he's not rich. It's Batman where his origin story is not the clean cut what it used to be. His mother's still alive. His father died in like a very kind of like school shooting kind of moment. And so, like I said, there's a sort of like contemporary darkness to it, because it's not just like a dramatic murder in an alleyway that's very noir. It's basically channeling current zeitgeist of trauma. That's what Batman's dealing with. Although, like I said, his mom's alive, and he's dealing with a world where the entire world is not as comic booky as we're used to. So it's actually, I know this is weird to say, but in Absolute Batman, one of the big things he fights morally, intellectually, philosophically in the first arc is the fact that it's kind of like how real life is, which is, no matter who you elect, there's still the Epstein crowd, as it were, still seemingly pulling strings. And so there's a sort of hopelessness that you're still struggling against because, again, no matter who you put in power, it seems like you're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. So Batman is facing a sort of existential kind of evil, and trying to fight it with his fisticuffs and kind of reconcile that. And that's what Darkseid's pollution of the universe creates. It ends up creating a universe that's wildly exaggerated and hyperbolic, but also very close to home in some cases. You also see that in Absolute Manhunter, with the stochastic terrorism that he's investigating. So that's the pitch. And like I said, it is, I think one of the reasons why it's doing so well is because of that resonance. There's something about, like I said, that feels very, like I said, very culturally resonant about what these comics are doing. I hate, in a way, that they're doing it because I prefer my superhero stories to be a separate escapist realm. But I also recognize that people are going to read these books and they're going to be like, okay, that's kind of like how things are in my current, very dystopic view of reality. So that's at least, I think, hopefully might explain some of what people are perceiving or the appeal of those series. Does that mean either of these books deserves an Eisner? That's what we're here to talk about. My quick answer is no.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of my problem with the whole thing is it's not the way the world is, right? It's the way that they want the world to be, right? And it's just it is a lie that pretends that reality is a lie so they can, give power to the same greedy people they're saying are the people on.
I'm not saying their solutions are right, but there was
no,
yeah,
like,
but
I'm just saying some, it's like, but that's even. I mean, it's just, and it's such. I don't understand how this is popular at all because I can't understand why people, like, especially the Absolute Batman. I can't understand why people are out there reading a mid comic that's like just like boring 1998 top cow edgelord tired nonsense, and why they're that's the content of the book, and your Antifa Mad Dog, just because they have like the same kind of Stranger Things member berries peppered throughout it.
Snyder and Dragata are not doing Antifa. Snyder and Dragata are doing anti-establishment. Daniel Warren Johnson in the annual is doing Antifa.
No, but even in the regular book, I mean, that's all the same text. Where you got the inversion of the roles. Even the idea that instead of being a doctor, Thomas Wayne is a teacher, and that's the.
I kind of like if you're going to do a different take, the idea that you did blue collar.
If you're going to do a different take, invent new characters. I mean, just like don't prop up the ghosts of yesteryear to give yourself some sort of artificial value statement.
The pitch of it is that it's a take, and as a take, I'm like, hey, blue collar Batman is not like the worst thing that I think you could
That
do.
already exists. It's called Mad Dog. That's the thing is, I mean, like,
I mean, you could also make case like, I mean, the question or whatever, but I'm just saying that like the idea that you're recasting Batman in a blue collar way, like that doesn't
well,
like
and
kill it for
you're
me.
recasting Batman in a blue collar way, but in order to do that, you have to be dishonest about everything else in the universe because he's not. His setup isn't a blue collar setup. It is he uses all the rich man toys while claiming he's like paying for it out of his 9 to 5. There's definitely not a chance in hell he's got a chance would be able to work that 9 to 5. It's just the conceit stretches beyond credulity for the sake of
it does stretch. I'll admit it does stretch, but like, you know, as opposed to like his Batmobile is he's a construction kind of guy, and so he took a construction dump truck bulldozer, and that's
a mega weapon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And he makes it into Mega Weapon from Mystery Science Theater. But it's a really nice visual. I always love colossal dump truck. But fully embracing the gratuitous camp there, which is kind of what the Ultimate Universe is kind of trying to do. And Dragata is a very good artist to do that. But the important distinction to talk about for the Eisner is the fact that Snyder and Dragata are doing one thing with their series, and Daniel Warren Johnson is doing something kind of different when he does this annual. And this is my hot take, and Reese is going to love this. I actually kind of I'm going to have to pick my words very carefully because on the one hand, like, I kind of hate it in a way because this book is just hating on the Trump voters, which is like not unique to what's on this Eisner list.
Well, it's doing more than that. It's doing the classic turnaround of trying to make something out of people that doesn't exist,
or exists in only in small minorities. So let me pull this up since we're talking about it. One thing I need to say though is that unlike Ice Cream Man, there's something that Warren Johnson does here that I respect. So let me pull it up. I guess, you know, not to bury the lead. Let me give a very brief synopsis here so people can kind of just know what happens in this book. I just pulled it up if you want to take a look. The pitch of Absolute Batman Annual is that we get to see some flashbacks with him and his dad, and then Batman spends most of the issue fighting evil racists who are trying to punish just immigrants who just want a better life. And then Batman gets really upset, and then he just goes, like I say, this is the thing that launched a few memes on social media. This wild page of just complete gratuitous violence against the evil racists. The thing that I respect here is that the best way to describe this book is that it is, and there's actually a couple other backup stories in here as well to mention, but if we talk about the main story, and that's, I think, what we should focus on, the main story by Daniel Warren Johnson is a temper tantrum in comics form. But, unlike what I find unforgivable in Ice Cream Man, which we'll get to in a little bit, Daniel Warren Johnson is, in fact, aware of the fact that he is having a temper tantrum, and he actually puts himself in timeout at the end and recognizes that there's a little bit of awareness. There's the big dump truck. Like I said, gratuitous splashes. But at the very end of the book, he just kind of is just having a moment. And I think that Warren Johnson, while he's having this temper tantrum at the Trump voters, I think there is a awareness in him and maybe some others on the left that I actually like to see. I think that some of them are starting to recognize that after 10 years of hating on something, that they're in danger of becoming...
You got to bump that number up.
At least just Trump, right? If we're talking about Trump, it's at least 10 years, right? 2014, 15, right? Gosh, that's 12 years then. Okay, so we'll round it to 10. But after hating something for over 10 years,
you're still off by, like, you know, at least 600%.
I'm talking about specifically Trump.
Let's try to
if we talk about
It's somewhere.
Trumpism, then I think that I think Warren Johnson specifically, maybe some others, are starting to recognize that after 10 years of hating, you're in danger of becoming hateful. And they're actually starting to recognize that and put it into the story. A couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, around 2015, when it became really popular to just hate on Trump specifically, um, there was none of that self awareness. It was just they would celebrate it and they would just keep celebrating it. Punch the Nazi fascist in the face, keep punching and just smile and clap. But this moment made me at least respect that while Warren Johnson does have this big temper tantrum, he's at least acknowledging that he's having one and that he's not letting himself completely get off the hook for it. And so by acting out that revenge fantasy with Batman, he also makes there's a priest who kind of throws himself in front of the people that Batman's abusing and basically says stop. And Batman has to recognize that he's it's not all okay what he's doing, and that's a subtle thing. But I actually appreciate it, and it's more than we get from some of the other creators who are doing similar hating, and so that much I respected.
So I
That's my hot take.
will at least accept this as a possible translation of this comic, but I do want to throw out one other possible translation, and that is this.
You mean interpretation?
We all know Batman isn't supposed to kill anybody, so you're stuck. So at least I've got this entire comic where I've managed to portray to everybody that they should rise up and attack the people they hate, but I get plausible deniability by saying, well, it's Batman, so in the end he can't do it.
He pushes
Just
him,
saying.
He pushes him so far though, because in this book there were a couple moments I thought he'd killed somebody, and the book had to clarify it because he actually takes a flamethrower. And this is something that Absolute Batman does in the main book as well, where it's like he's using like lethal weapons, but like barely not killing people through the magic of it being comics. In most cases, this would just literally kill you instantly.
Yeah.
But again, they actually kind of lampshade that. Here comes the priest. Oh, it hurts. Yes, you are still alive. Batman didn't kill you.
Well, and I would say that my translation still works even if he did kill a few people because it is his origin story.
You mean interpretation, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. We're not translating this to French.
No.
I think Reese froze, so he's probably gonna.
No, he's moving.
Oh, he is.
Anyway,
okay, he froze on my screen. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I would say it still works though, because this is an issue number 0. So even if he did kill a few people, it's just his origin story.
It's not a 0. This is an annual. Oh. So an annual is just meant. They usually publish the annual at the end of the year, and it's supposed to be back in the day. I don't know if it's still kind of the idea is the fact that you.
But it's clearly the origin story. He's getting himself set up in the beginning.
No, it's not the origin. The origin is.
That's how I took this whole thing.
It's not.
Either way, I will say this: there was some bad writing in it because in the very beginning, he is actually asking this guy non-lethals, right? So it's like I get to the end and I'm like, well, which is it? Is he lethal or is he learning not to be lethal?
The idea here is that he was being pushed because he gets beat up by the guy who even sold him the weapons, and so he's using these weapons so hard that he's pushing the line, but obviously not crossing it. Whatever. It's like I said, it's very clearly again just it's gratuitous even by Absolute Batman standards. And that's one of the things that I think is kind of weird because this is a book that for many people, because it's being nominated, people are going to judge the mainstream Snyder and Dragotta series by. And I'm like, if I were Snyder and Dragotta, I might be a little pissed that Daniel Warren Johnson like derailed and drew all this attention to the way he did it in one issue that's not part of the, because this doesn't fit in within their continuity. It's an annual. It's kind of meant to be sort of like a bonus comic that you read at the end of the year that you don't have to be on your continuity to get. And so it's meant to be kind of standalone. Which I think this this works as a standalone just fine, I think. But I think I don't know if it's a very good marketing to sell the series on, because it's so alienating, right? It's like, okay,
yeah,
Trump won the popular vote, so even though Johnson is recognizing he's having a temper tantrum, he's still like not helping the sales of the people who write this book 12 issues out
But
of the year.
see, that's what I'm saying though, is that if you still manage to rile enough people up because of it, well, then I've done my job. Oh, but no, that wasn't my point. I was actually trying to teach Batman not to be violent. See what I'm
No,
saying?
no, I don't think he's not teaching him to be violent. Like I said, I really do think that he's having a temper tantrum, but also trying to be self-aware about it. I don't know.
I'm just
Maybe
saying.
maybe you're correct in the sense that he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. And
And
I don't think
that's
I
what I was
fully
about to
understand
say is that actually when I compare this, because I did accidentally read the first one, the first issue. I think it
Sure.
was the first issue. And it really felt like it was very much the same, trying to have your cake and eat it too, just with just how far they push the violence, but then they're
Yeah,
making sure to tell, but he hits every place that's not a vital artery, yada yada yada, right?
I think he cuts off a guy's hand, but he like helps him like with a tourniquet afterwards because like you said,
Right.
he's got the bat axe. So yeah, it's definitely not your mom's Batman.
So while this is about 1,000 times more egregious, it does feel like that's probably what is happening in this series in general.
Yeah, I just think that the main series is not nearly as politically alienating.
Right.
As this
I
one
could
is.
definitely tell that this was just shoved right in there as
This one,
you know.
yeah, this which like I said, if I were Snyder, I think I'd be a little pissed. But just the fact it might impact my sales. But who knows? Reese, you've been kind of quiet.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say. Because it's just one of these things. Is like once again, I have found I don't understand why, how, in what possible world that exists that people keep giving Scott Snyder money. His
Yeah.
takes are bad, and I mean, he can write a sentence, but everything the sentence said, all the meaning the sentence carries is stupid. So,
Right,
and
Kind
anybody
of
who
like you
touches
just
this stuff,
described Tom
like
King too.
I understand what you're saying about like maybe there's some redemptiveness about the violence or whatever, but I think that's just a lampshade. I think it's the clown nose.
I don't think it's the
we're,
redemptive violence. I just think that
we're
Warren
gonna
Johnson
show
is aware.
we're gonna show Batman cry so that we can feel good about killing Charlie Kirk later.
Well, I don't know what to say. I guess what I'm saying is this:
So
is that
I'm not talking about it explicitly, just by
I get yeah. You're not,
let me say it this way: leftists are going to be a part of our art scene, no matter whether we like it or not. If I have to read work that leftists have something to do with, if I'm going to be exposed to them, I would rather see them move further towards what Johnson is doing than what we see. What's his face in Ice Cream Man do? Because one of them is much more haughty and snubbing his nose at you and being like, ha ha ha, I'm just so much better than you. And Warren Johnson, I think, is at least understanding that the more he hates us, the more hateful he's becoming. And at least that bothers him. And I feel like there's at least some angle of a path forward to maybe somewhere along the lines we might be able to talk. Maybe those lines will finally converge again. But with the other guy, with Ice Cream Man, I'm never going to have a conversation with that guy.
I can give you that, provided that I'm wrong in my interpretation and that people are not going to be affected and encouraged to go out and do stuff, which I'm honestly worried will happen one way or another.
No, I mean that's a separate thing, which is like, is this encouraging other violence, which is its own separate another conversation that's worthy to think about. I'm just saying that in terms of just treating it as a piece of fiction, I'm like, at least he's recognizing that him being so hateful towards the Trump voters, which is very clearly who these people are. It's like he's recognizing that that's not
but
good thing.
it's also an excuse for him to lie about the Trump voters.
Right.
That's how he sees them. That's how he sees them.
That's the
that's
having
how,
your cake and eat it too.
That's how he sees them. It's not going to be a lie to the way he sees. I'm not saying it is not a lie.
Right.
I'm
No, but it's an utter exaggeration. He doesn't actually think his father wants to kill the brown people. Right. So
I don't know. It depends on how much of this gets passed down from corporate. We want you to make this kind of story, etc.
Corporate doesn't pay attention.
They're not caring.
Corporate hasn't paid attention in 15 years.
It is very common to see people who genuinely believe the two movies, right? They clearly think that these people are the monsters they're depicting. Partially because they don't leave New York. And that's often why they're putting their stories in rural areas, because that's what they think rural areas are like. And it's ignorance. And I'm not saying it's not a lie what they're portraying. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of people, not all, but there are a lot of people who genuinely believe this. They see the world this way. I talk to people like it's just
Yeah, but you have to understand that there are people in high places who are doing things like this deliberately designed to get people to believe that.
Yeah, that's I mean they're intentional propagandists. That's the and that's the other part of it too, is it's just like, you know, let's lie about the people that we don't like.
No, I don't. By the way, let me
it's
say,
insulting. It's insulting because it's like one of these things where it's just like, it's got the same kind of, when did you stop beating your wife?
Yeah, I
kind
know.
of quality.
So let
like,
me clarify my point this way. It's not like I enjoyed once again being insulted. What I'm saying is that I'm so used to being insulted that seeing something a little bit different made me pause and actually appreciate this more than I should. I'm just saying that like this
It hit you out of nowhere.
Johnson's approach is not common. I see the other approach way more common. So I was like, oh, is there growth? Does this reflect something? Maybe they're getting tired of hating all the time, or recognizing that, like I said, recognizing that hating your enemy the way that they've been hating for 10 years in particular, this specific enemy. I know that, no, this specific enemy for over 10 years. Like I said, it's like a couple of them are getting tired of it. I'm like, wow, isn't that nice that you're finally getting tired of all that hatred? Cool, maybe there's some hope here.
I despise having to compare that as the one different or contrast that is the one difference between this and that awful Star Trek comic we talked about last time we talked about the
yeah,
Eisner.
exactly. That's what I'm talking about. The what Captain What's His Face's Wonderful Day, and that was just nothing but revenge fantasy. But it was just shallow and just I wish you death, punch you in the face for like 50 pages. There was nothing there apart from the anger, and this was like, I'm getting sick of being hateful, and I'm like, good, just get a little more sick of it so that you don't make a comic like this. So...
You know what else is annoying? Off topic, but having just finished up the Count of Monte Cristo and realizing this is basically what happened.
What?
Okay, we'll talk about that some other time.
What?
Let's move on to the next one. Say.
Yeah, we'll. I think we should. Yeah, we're never gonna make them through these. I'll bring up just a page or two of Martian Manhunter. So we can just let's try to keep this.
Well, while you're doing that, I just want to point out all the projection about the Democrats liking to ignore the fact that they invented the KKK as a paramilitary wing to kill Republicans. So let's just put that out in the air once again. That's why they existed.
If I had a Subway card for every time I heard that Democrats are the real racist, I would have.
They're not. It's not just that they're the real racists. It's that been their.
I definitely have a $5 footlong.
It's not. It's that that's been their modus operandi since they invented the 3/5 compromise.
Oh god. All right, Martian Manhunter. We'll be here. We'll be here all night. So the best thing I can say about Martian Manhunter is that if award shows are based on how frou-frou artsy fartsy they are, then Dennis Camp is definitely hitting those bells really well. This comic is really artsy fartsy. The interpretation, as far as I understand it, is that Detective Jones is basically he's kind of like being psychically possessed, like an alternate personality is the Martian Manhunter, and he doesn't even know it yet. And so the first issue is him kind of starting to awaken to the fact he has this alien consciousness inside of him that allows him to see the world in a very different way. And it's very much trying to channel the idea of synesthesia, which is kind of like, being able to taste colors and such. So interpreting senses differently. And so that's kind of what this book is really leaning into, and it gets really psychedelic and it gets really trippy.
It
But like,
also misdefines stochastic, which is great.
it was like was it the literal definition? Because I know stochastic is more like, it's like when they talk about stochastic terrorism, they're talking like homegrown, like domestic,
Yeah,
essentially.
stochastic means potential or possible or probabilistic. So
All right, there's a Greek for
it's
the
a
name.
term that specifically means maybe.
So there's our shot of Martian Men. But I will say that like the book is also trying to. Where's the other artsy fartsy page? At the very end, they actually have you're supposed to take this page and fold it
Which
up
obviously we
over.
can't do.
You're
Well,
supposed to
you look through it, so you'll go to the next page down from it.
yeah. So you're supposed to like fold one page over and like so there's
No, you go down from that one.
is it from that one? Okay.
Yeah, it's
Oh, it's
just
this
the
one.
very
Yeah.
next
So
one
you're supposed
because
to
you
fold this one
hold it
over
up to
this
the
one.
light and you can read it. And he says, and it's great because what it reads backwards as, I don't know if you read backwards, I do. Let me get to it because I don't remember off my head. It said, "We are the Martian mind blanker."
Did you take that?
Now, if Zatanna had said that,
No, Reese. Reese is leaving that pregnant pause for a reason.
Okay.
That's funny. So anyway, but I will say that in terms of giving, if we talk about like this being an artsy fartsy award, the comic that's doing deliberate artsy fartsy things, like being able to put pages on the other side of each other so that you can read through them through transparency and light, that is a very interesting thing to do with the comic book page. So if I were scoring this, I would say, okay, you're winning some score in terms of like artistic creative technique here. So I don't
my
know.
problem is in the end, I really have no idea what the whole story is supposed to be about. It just seems like stuff happening.
Well,
Yeah,
and
it's very much doing the sort of maxi series. It's very much, it plays like the pilot of a Netflix series.
Yeah, it's a limited series, and so part of the thing is Jim says he thinks the art's terrible, and I actually don't agree. It is garish. It reminds me of Shade the Changing Man, very much. It reminds me of Kirby's stuff that he was doing for DC before the Fourth World kind of stuff.
It does look a little Kirby-ish here and there.
The what do you call it? OMAC, and so those projects that version of Sandman.
It is trying to be without being. I don't think it's set in the 60s. It seems like it's set in a sort of like, even it's not the 60s, but it's meant to evoke some of that at times. I think definitely with some of the trippiness.
Yep.
I will say this. I think this comic is fine. I just don't like it as a. This was my review. I've reviewed this book before on Well Read Comics channel, which I recommend checking that out and checking out this review. I basically said, I don't know if I buy this as a superhero comic. Why is this a superhero comic?
Well,
that was my biggest issue. I'm like, if this had just been like, if you divorce all your superhero expectations and you just say, hey, this is a trippy book about a guy who's possessed by an alien intelligence.
Yeah.
If you remove all of the DC expectations, I feel like I wouldn't bat an eye and I'd be like, oh, sure, this is a clever, interesting book. And might be able to, I might even recommend it to people.
Yeah, and I'm trying to read through the series because it's in a different category that I'm voting on, right? Mm-hmm. And the issue 2, it actually explains that he's not actually Martian. It's just the entity, the mind reading entity, is not actually Martian. It's from some far, far, far away place, but he calls himself a Martian because Jones has an idea of a Martian in his brain, and so he can comprehend that concept. And so it's just like, so the mind effer, the Martian mind effer, because that's what they're trying to say, isn't Martian, and he can explain that he's not Martian, but he has to call himself Martian so that he can explain, so that he can understand it. So that's like a self-contradictory concept. And my problem with this in this category is it's not a one-shot. It's not a single issue, right? Nothing happens in this story, right? It sets up something to happen, but nothing happens
in
yet.
issue 2, yeah, it's the pilot.
Right? It explains that something happened before the issue started, and it tells you something's about to happen, but nothing happens. And so, like regardless of my thought about the concept in a bigger picture, right? Do I think that this could be a decent idea? Is the idea of the Martian mind effort going to be something that is worth reading? Maybe. I'm at least a little intrigued to see where it goes. I'm not dreading the rest of issue 2, but it's not a single issue, right? It's just not. It was miscategorized, and it's been stuck there.
If I
I
can
think
clarify your
just so that the
Mhm.
Eisner committee can guarantee that Dennis gets an Eisner.
I mean, he's on here 3 times. It does feel like they really want to give him one.
Yep.
So like it's like I don't know who he bribed or whatever behind the scenes to just guarantee this guy gets one, or multiplies his chances. But like this just makes me want to like vote for another person if they're playing that kind of like cheating game, stacking the deck so hard. Anyway, regardless, my takeaway from this book was that I think it's fine as a comic. I just don't buy it as a superhero story. It really, I know it's to put this page up here is funny for me to say this. It does seem very high in its own farts as a superhero comic. And I was saying this about this in my other review of this, where I said, if you take away everything from the superhero narrative in terms of what the expectations are, at a certain point, you're just left with something else. And then I just want to read something else because I came here for superheroes. And so that was kind of the conundrum that I ran into, is that I'm like, yeah, this is a trippy mind F, which is fine. It's totally fine to make that in comic book form, but I was here to read a DC book. And, you know, Absolute Batman is meant to just be like a dark, edgy take on Batman. So this should technically be a dark, edgier take on, or it doesn't have to be dark and edgy, but I'm just saying that it stripped away so much of the superhero expectations. I just didn't know what I was here for.
One of the things about Martian Manhunter as a character, right, is that he has the range to have stories that are regular superhero fare,
Sure,
and stories that are just more straight crime fiction fare, right?
okay,
And there was a mini series, 3 issues back in the 90s, Martian Manhunter American Secrets. And it's the whole purpose of that is to explain why there were no DC continuity heroes in the 1950s. But it's this gritty, like genuinely, like texturally gritty, noir type story, where like John is the only super character on the planet, because he's more immune to the. I don't want to get into the whole thing. Anyway, point is that was definitely not a superhero book in any shape, right? It was a sci-fi noir story, right? And it was fun. I don't mind the idea about John being moved out of the superhero sandbox every once and again. So that's not my problem with this book. My problem with this book was in the category, because it doesn't belong in this category.
So if I can clarify that, and before you move on, it is a single issue. What you're saying is that the narrative presented does not give enough of a standalone story for you to feel
Exactly.
that it fits in the spirit of this category.
It is a poor entry into this category because there's no beginning. Well, there is a beginning, no middle, no end.
Okay. All right. Let's pull up the next one. Assorted Crisis Events number 4. All right.
By the way, I put it up what it might look like when you're looking through that.
Oh, well, that's fun.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, Jim Tuner mentioned that this is not a new thing, but I will say that it's not a common thing, and that means that the guy who's writing the creative team is taking some creative risks, doing things that you don't normally see within the pages of comics. So at least those things become noteworthy to me, even if it's not like, oh, it's not the first time it's been done. I pay it for an artsy fartsy award. At least it gives it a couple points. All right. So here we go. Assorted Crisis Events number 4. Alrighty. So again, so we can pick up the speed here. The best way I can pitch this series is Do you like being sad? um, this is something I call, if you read a lot of Victorian literature, but not just Victorian literature, because I guess we should talk about modernism. Nah, modernism is probably closer. So if you read a lot of modernist literature where you just get this like ennui and cynical depression,
Mhm.
uh, because because of how life has so many
Now,
negative things in it, and we live in a time that highlights those, because obviously negative things happened before World War I, but World War I really highlighted a lot of these negative things, so much so that it really imbricated an entire literary period. And I would argue and say that both the absolute comics and stuff like Assorted Crisis Events are really absorbing and channeling a lot of contemporary ennui and a lot of contemporary unrest and dissatisfaction with how reality has turned out. And there is something to be said about this, because the 90s and the 2000s promised a new golden age of technological progress that was supposed to bring fulfillment and happiness. And we're almost 40 years after all that. And the millennials have all found out that the promises of technology have really just made everything kind of sucky and worse. So I understand, again, the resonant feeling that leads to projects like this, but the end result is just an entire issue about a guy who is completely alienated from his environment. He never is fully connected with his time. So like
mhm.
he gets a job, but he doesn't even he never remembers applying for the job. He gets into a relationship, he never remembers it. He doesn't remember his kids. And so the Assorted Crisis Events is about being disconnected from time. And when you really take that concept out, you get something that's what I would call either ethnographically or anthropologically interesting. Because again, if you think about, again, the what I mentioned before about maybe the millennials, or maybe not just the millennials, but I'll say millennials because that's kind of the pocket that I'm very familiar with. Um, that feeling of isolation and disconnectedness from your epoch and from previous epochs, and just floating through life, is a thing. And so this issue is very, very well channeling the vibe and the emotion of that. So it's doing at least that part well. I just hate this as a comic and as a
Right.
story that I
So
read.
before we get into that, there's something I want to back up for just a second. Cartoonicus, you mentioned in our private chat that you had started reading issue 1,
Right.
because you missed that it was starting with 4 or whatever this one is. So, and you said that without reading issue 1, you would have had no understanding about what's going on in 4.
As a matter
And
of fact, he
well, I
disproved
didn't.
it
Well, I
because
didn't feel that way. I do want to know what was going on in issue 1 about the thing.
issue one explains that this whole universe is messed up in its time. That stuff is constantly fading in and out of existence. Someone can show up for work and just suddenly find out, well, you don't work here. I don't. I thought I did. There are people from every time and place and possible scenario walking around in the same area. People just disappear out of existence. Yada 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 yada.
Okay.
And if you
See, I don't
Without
think
that to tell me, I would have no idea. Like even just now, you had to make me realize, oh, that's what he's saying.
yeah.
See, I actually don't think any of that is necessary to understand this story, because this story, and this is going to make me sound like one of those people, but your damn millennials thinking you're the first person to have this problem in the world. This is this is the bones boring, normal story of the middle-aged man who
Yeah.
who all of a sudden realizes that he doesn't get everything he wants. It's American Beauty. It's
It reminded me
friggin'
of. It reminded me.
Pleasantville.
I think it's Kafka. There's things.
Yeah, Franz Kafka. Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
Kafka. But
Um,
But
that
I
thing
would
is,
argue
it's a super normal story about a discontented middle-aged man.
But
It's
that's what I'm saying is
Secret
that
Life of
it
War
doesn't.
Committee.
the breakdown of time and the way it is perceived is very
Mhm.
millennial. The first issue that Cartoonicus
Well, the thing is,
mentioned. Well, let
you
me finish. Let me
say
finish.
that, but as
Let me finish my thought.
okay,
The If you don't mind, it's not the fact that it's happening that's unique. It is the flavor that is. So the first issue where it's like everything's being mushed together is, if you think about the internet and how the internet just mashes all time periods together into a giant colossal mismatch, and how you can just easily get lost in all of that. It's not that this comic specifically has things that are completely unique, but some of the flavor of how we got there to this point are going to be unique to that generation's experience, just like the 60s experienced it through Woodstock and such. It's not that the things they're experiencing, like love, loss, trauma, ennui, are unique, because those things go back to time immemorial.
You've
But
got some set dressing that's specific, but
the road that got you there is going to bear the marks of your time period and only your time period. And that's what the anthropological ethnological thing is meant to, is important to tease out.
right. I will agree that there is some set dressing that's unique there, but there's no. I would argue that there's no substantive difference between this story and the Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Um, they're you've got this situation where a person feels a victim to their own life, where they don't feel like they've actually made any choices, and they're dealing with the consequences of the non-choices that they've made through life.
Okay.
And it's
I think it is a little different.
it,
I
yeah,
do. I
but
do. And I think it's
I
more.
know you because you keep saying that, but I'm arguing with you.
No,
No, no,
go ahead.
no.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, all right. You finish. Go ahead. You finish your pitch. Go
Because
ahead.
I mean, like I said, it's the same. I mean, like, have you ever read Naughty Bits? It was an underground comic from the early '90s about an aged hippie who was dealing with a middle life after having destroyed her youth, and
I've not
it's
read that one.
it's got the same kind of hits on there. Also, the idea that you blink and you've lost 20 years. I mean, that's a normal uh, uh, way of expressing the flow of time that you have in everyday conversation, and so like you're seeing it played out here in color and in form, but the situations that encounter it, there differences, yeah, sure, but they're not they're in terms of like distinction without difference. um it's the same, like, this guy, like, never talks to his kids, right?
Right.
Just like
I know that. I
he's
know
just
that.
a
Like that's
he
not
just he's
super
just
unique.
yeah, he's just a normal piece of shit. He cheats on his wife with a girl. He
So let me
cheats on
put it
that
this.
girl with a guy. You
So
know,
let me put it this way though. This is where I think the assorted events series becomes important to think about, and this is where it's helpful to read that issue 1, because you can. How do I put this? I think that if I were to describe one generational difference, and I think it's more than set dressing, it's the fact that you guys can lose time, but our generation got so lost that in some cases we don't even know how to relate to time. And further generations after us got even worse. So let me actually drive this home with the fact that there's actually a condition that you will get accommodations for at a school. Again, not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just pointing this out because people are going to cringe at this. Time blindness.
yeah, yeah.
So
When I was a child, they called that attention deficit disorder.
no, this is
The-
even
the-
this is even further than
I
that.
I
My
understand
point is that
it was a
it's
symptom. It was a symptom in the '80s. It became a diagnosis in the aughts, right? And that's so like so people are looking at ways of pathologizing normal human behavior. So I don't think that's a
I'm not just
situation that
talking.
society.
I'm not talking necessarily about the. I wasn't trying. I'm citing the
Right.
pathology as not a pathology, but as indicative of that flavor, that
Mhm.
perception. That, like I said, I think the internet age um, really propagated how not just being lost in time or losing time, but feeling utterly disconnected from it existentially. And I think that's something that you can attribute more to people who grew up with that in that internet age, who their formative years were there. And so I think that is what you get a little more from this series, and that is at least, like I said, ethnographically interesting to think about a little.
Right.
So
I,
that's that aspect of like not just he lost time. It's the fact
yeah.
this entire comic is based on the concept of being completely discombobulated and disconnected from time, and that being disconnected from time is a vibe that people of a certain generation I think will in fact resonate with and go, yeah, I feel kind of like that. And that's interesting to think about. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of the
Yeah.
interesting
I understand that
aspect.
I understand there are people that are identifying with that,
Right.
but it's not new. People have
I,
been writing art about that for a long time. That's what Connecticut Yankee King Arthur's Court is about.
I would argue no. I've read Connecticut Yankee. That's not being disconnected from time. It's being out of time. Those are separate concepts. I'm saying there's something here to dig into.
Right.
And
Yeah, but
I think it's something about being born in this moment. And again, being
yeah.
born in another moment has a different perspective that's just as valid that still ends up in the same problems, but your flavor is different, and the flavor is more than just set dressing because it will ultimately, I think, impact your anyway.
Once
Back
again,
to the
having read the story for 40 years, I just disagree with you. This is not there's nothing new about this comic. It's
so
now
Well,
in
there's
terms of its
nothing new under the
execution,
sun.
it's perfectly solid comics. I'll give you that. Right?
I think so. That's so the thing was that like the concept that I'm talking about that this evoked in me was way more interesting than anything the comic did, because the comic just did what you said, which was just okay, sure, this is just the modernist Kafka ennui, and at the end he's just dead and isolated from everything. Yeah, I've seen that before. Um, um, and oh look, it's doing a thing with like red and blue. Look, the color scheme that's artsy fartsy. The main thing that I didn't like about this is again I don't really enjoy reading a whole lot of modernism apart from its intellectual things to think about because it's always reads the same way. It's basically this comic is an anti superhero story because whereas the superhero can take unrealistic power over a situation to force a happy ending, which is escapist entertainment, which I love. What
It's
this type of
victim
story,
porn.
what this story is I called it depression porn,
Yep. Yep.
which
But I
is
mean,
just
I'm specifically wanting to hone into the fact this man is a victim of he's he didn't make these choices. Somebody made them for him.
yeah. Tuner's onto something. I do think this is channeling alienation theory.
Sartre.
So Jim also, no, sorry, Sad Robot asks, Cartoonicus, what is up with the old guy with the backpack? And that is the most egregious example right here in this comic is where, they get to this bridge and there's this old guy who looks like a homeless guy standing there, looks like he's about to jump. And he yells out, "Hey, I know you." And then the comic never explains how he knows him or why this homeless guy seems to have a freaking jetpack on his back, right?
He's in the first issue.
Well, he
Exactly.
knows
If
him
you had
because
read
he's
the
been in.
first issue, you would understand that this is like a time traveler who's been trying to warn people of the coming disaster, and he's probably going to be in like every
he
issue
is.
from here on
Yeah.
out as their mascot.
Even without knowing that, it was obvious that he was a time traveler, and because he was the only character that was colored, and he shows up like 4 or 5 times through the course of this guy's life.
In an
And so,
anthology series, you often need some common thread. He's the common thread, as far as I'm aware. Now, here's the thing that I think is interesting. I want to share one more thing really fast
okay,
before we move on. And it's simply the fact that if you wanted, this wouldn't have worked out for the timing of this award. But I would say that in terms of what is worthy of an award, I personally think that what should have been nominated, and again, I don't think the timing of this would have worked out, but if you're going to nominate assorted crisis events, I think they should have nominated issue 8. Because issue 8 is actually doing something with the medium of comics specifically. It's doing things with immediately you can see, oh yeah, we might have something to dig into for award season. And at the very end of the comic actually breaks down and becomes more abstract as things kind of break down.
don't show this to Scott
McCloud.
Cloud.
but I think he's channeling that. And so my point is that if you, it gets quite meta. If you're gonna do an award comic, I'm like, this is the one that I feel like you should have submitted. Again, I don't know if it
Honestly, even the first one, as much as I hated parts of it, had a very unique and interesting concept to it, and it made you understand what was happening. Even if I did have to think about the ending for about 24 hours before I figured
I
out.
couldn't. I tried reading the first issue, and just because you were talking about that, I wanted to see if myself what you'd mentioned. But the initial narrative in the first several pages is so boring that I skipped it. So
all right, so we got to keep things moving, or we're never gonna get through this.
Okay. Well, I've got Ice Cream Man ready to add to the stage.
Boy.
I want to save that one for a second because
want to save that one. Okay. Well then,
let's do coin op number 10.
Okay. I've got that one queued up too. Let me just go ahead and get over there.
I have very little to say about coin op, so this will be fast. It's Chris Ware, but not Chris Ware. So if you like Chris Ware, then this one would probably be a shoe-in. But I don't know if it's Chris Waring hard enough. Chris Ware has an architectural sense. All his comics are very, very, almost sterile in their architectural construction. And that panel on the bottom left is the most Chris Ware panel I've ever seen. Chris Ware is also fairly depressing, but he's literary depressing. So at least you can sip your tea and go haha about it. This, I read a review. It said it was diving much more into the surrealism, as it were.
Right.
Which, you can see some hints of that here. The basic pitch of it is that this is a very kind of weird world. Everyone works for a very particular department. There's a department of dreams. And one of our main characters is literally having his dreams harvested, essentially. This was only a 10-page preview we were able to get. They did provide that for free, which was nice. But mostly just got the setup for it. But you can kind of get at least the flavor of what this was going to be.
It has. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the film, The Adjustment Bureau.
Yeah.
This had a similar kind of vibe to that, sort of like Chris Ware meets, because I definitely see the Ware structuralist, architectural, drafting kind of layouts, but it also has kind of oh come on, I can't remember.
Actually,
Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. Philip K. Dick. World building, which is also the Adjustment Bureau. That's why.
You know what's interesting? Look at these first few pages. The images that have the trucks in them. There's almost like an isometric video game quality to it, because no matter where it shows, it's like from the same angle.
Yep.
Same distance.
Yeah.
So
that's a good observation.
I did read that this one was not plot heavy, or that you're not going to get a very satisfactory, apparently narrative from this one. It's just going to get really trippy, as it were. It has that, I guess, in common with Absolute Martian Manhunter. I think again this is artsy it classifies as artsy fartsy, but my issue with a lot of these Eisner nominations was it was hard to find things that stood out as that was getting the award. Last time we did this, the Nightwing comic, I don't think I'd call this bad art.
No, I would argue that it's bad. I think that it's intentionally doing what it is, and I kind of dig the style.
My issue is that it's just nothing is standing out enough for me to go, yes, you win the award. With at least the last time we did this, the Nightwing comic for a single issue, I was like, this is a superhero story, but you're doing something, you're committing to this bit. Yeah, you're winning the award. And this year, it was really hard to find anything that stood out at all. It was just
hard to find anything I care about, literally.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. You argue the isometric trucks were bad art. I think actually, Jim, I think that Sad Robot is on a thing. Something. I don't know if he means to be. He asked, is there a category for sprite comics? This is a sprite comic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like a lot of it's reused assets. and it's intentionally done that way. And even like the even in the cityscape, like the perspective is wrong, but it's intentionally wrong, right? And I think that this is in fact a sprite comic. So that might my early days on webcomics might just be biasing me a little bit on that. So
For it or against it?
I mean, in the ways that like I appreciate it, I'm appreciating it.
Okay.
I don't think that it really has what I would want to say that this is the winner for me. But
Right. That was the thing, is that it was just like okay,
I
it's
like
art.
what it's doing. I don't think it's the best. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. That was
All
the
these
thing.
comics just really feel like they are trying to be artsy for the sake of being artsy, and that's not art. You have to actually care about something.
That's what. Oh heck.
This is. I hate to
sa-
say this, but it's almost like this is AI art exemplified.
Picard said this about Art Spiegelman. He said being arty without being artful. He was making the distinction that it was like you're try-harding essentially is what he was saying without actually achieving anything of literary value.
Okay,
That was
well, in that
Picard's.
case, it's not
that,
AI art.
that was Picard's incisive critique of Mouse, actually, which is really interesting. So, and Jim Tuner's reminding me of Heidegger now. With I read a piece from him where the quote "Thinging things are things" was an actual sentence, which made me just want to die. That was my first stint in grad school. But okay, so there's not a whole lot more to say about this one. I think we could just move on. I think we should. I want to save Ice Cream Man for last because I've got both barrels to unload on that one. But before we get to that, let's talk about Something Is Killing the Children.
All right, I'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Okay. That's fine. I don't think we're gonna do this one for very long. I don't have a ton to say about it either.
I literally skipped out on this one. I could not take it anymore.
Yeah, I think I know why. Okay, so Something Is Killing the Children is James Tinian's series, and it is, when did he start Something Is Killing the Children? It's been a hot minute. 2019. So he's been at it for 6 years. I think I read the first story arc of it. The basic pitch is that there's a secret order. I think it's the Order of St. George, and they're kind of lawful evil, I think is the alignment. They're not really good. They're kind of like an Illuminati that protect their secrets and are willing to kill for them. But they're also like, they're monster hunters. They're the people who hunt the things that go bump in the night. And it's basically, the pitch of the story is that the things that go bump in the night target children. And if you read between the lines there is some truth to that. And it's also trying to channel, I would say, a kind of old school grim fairy tale aesthetic, which is the fact that, the monsters could gobble you up and the story didn't always end positively. The idea is that this is a world where the things that go bump in the night come after the kids, and you don't always save them like the superhero does. Sometimes you just have to avenge them. That's the basic pitch of the series. We have Erica Slaughter. She's our heroine, she's kind of a rebel from the Order of St. George, and she kind of strikes out on her own to kill the monsters. And the adults just are usually just, they just don't know what to make of it. They just think either wild animals or something else is happening, and she shows up and then helps deal with whatever monster is in fact killing the children. The comic, I think, is the other thing of note to say about Something Is Killing the Children is it tends to, I think, address a more Tinian grew up in Wisconsin, and so he's trying to channel a more rural ethos. So whereas superheroes almost always take place in metropolitan centers, Tinian is moving the center of the comic to a more rural. I think it's even been described. I was at a conference once, and it was described as sort of like a rural Gothic kind of a atmosphere. And so you're going to see a lot of just local blue collar people, like in their double wides, trying to make sense of something that killed a kid. For some people, just that pitch is too much, and that's where it's like I'm not having people want nothing to do with a story like that, and I can respect that. So
I'll be right back.
that's the pitch of the series. The pitch of this story is, I think I said this before. This is essentially the free comic book day version of Something is Killing the Children. It is in a one issue, one shot form, a sort of pitch for the whole series. Erica Slaughter goes to a bar. She hears a bunch of people trying to make sense of this monster that's been killing kids, and everyone's got a different theory. Some people think it's like Epstein's Island kind of a thing, or government conspiracy. Other people think it's aliens. Some people think it's wild animals, so you're getting all these different perspectives on what that is. So it's Monster Hunter meets blankets. I wouldn't call it that. That's an interesting perspective. I think it's much more in line with Lock and Key. So it's got that very dark fairy tale kind of a vibe to it. Because, like I said, kids are. Erica sometimes recruits like young people to kind of work with her because they're sometimes the only people who will believe what's going on. The other adults just think it's, they have their own explanations for it.
Are you telling me Lock and Key is even worse than the show?
I love Lock and Key. The show is a travesty. Don't get me started.
So Sad Robot asks when Hellboy will show up.
When is Hellboy show up? That's basically Erica Slaughter. She's our version of Hellboy, if you want to use that kind of a interpretation of it.
It's a lovely name.
That's a good, like, this pitch right. If you want to scroll up, I love that shot. That's such a great scene setter. Like,
yeah,
I've seen that house before. Like, I'm pretty sure I live it. Like, I'm pretty sure I live next. There's like in my town. There's that house. So it's just, it does a good job of channeling the rural, and it's not just a set piece. You had to this is what I'm saying. Like the sort of resonant things. You kind of needed to live there to evoke that properly.
One of the things I liked about this book, is that, like, I felt like all of the characters, were treated like with a certain level of respect, right? Like, there are some of the townsfolk that aren't respectable, but the bartender, like, goes out of his way to explain that everybody's dealing with this tragedy of these 14 or whatever it is missing kids, and nobody knows what to make of it. So people are just trying to figure out how to function with this light of their community left.
Right.
And
so for a more sensitive audience, we might want to pause and not show any further pages so far, because it gets kind of grisly after.
It is, and it is pretty gruesome. And one of the things is, like, while I think that much of the violence in the Absolute Batman is actually cartoony, this one is not cartoony.
Yeah, this is, I would say you have to have a strong stomach for this, and I completely respect Cartoonicus and other people who say no, I'm out. I do respect that. Like, this either this story will either, like, not trigger that, or it will, and I completely understand if you dip out of this one. So not to belabor the point, but I will say that as a representative of what this series is, I think it does a fine job, although it's very passive. Like, normally the story focuses more on Erica Slaughter and what she does to kill these monsters. This one shot, it's very, like, it's almost incidental at the very end where it's revealed, oh, she's already killed the thing, and she's just here to kind of touch base after she's already done it. And, like, the bartender just kind of, like, thanks her very in a very nuanced way, and the story just kind of ends. So if you're familiar with...
Once again, how is that a one-shot?
If you're familiar with this series, or if maybe this piqued your interest in reading more, I can see it working that way. In terms of, like, presenting the action of the story, it doesn't do a great job of that. So this is it's a very much a vibe piece again. There's a lot of vibe comics in this batch of Eisner, which is kind of, so that's really all I have to say about Something is Killing the Children. It's had a really long title. A Monster Hunter Walks into a Bar. So yeah, Reese, do you have anything else to say about this one?
No, this was not to bury the lead. This was my favorite one. It is tried and true formula fiction. It works within its genre expectations. It's out there to tell an engaging story along the lines of the genre, to be representative of it without and to let you actually speak to the characters that are involved in this, which are all humanized. It's not there to shock you. It's not there to it does what it should do, and I think the art is evocative and interesting. It was good to look at. I liked it.
Jim Tuner did mention Stranger Things. That is, Stranger Things came out in 2016, so 3 years before this. That's a fair to say that probably had a big influence on it. You can, I wouldn't say it is Stranger Things, because Stranger Things really rides the whole "we're doing the 1980s, guys," and this comic is not trying to like drown you in 80s nostalgia. It's like it's more doing the fairy tale aspect. Um,
To be fair, Stranger Things was kind of like the first to do that, so it wasn't exactly nostalgia baiting you. It was just like,
I mean, just
No, it
creating
wasn't. It wasn't at all.
nostalgia bit was pretty strong.
Back to the
a
Future was
celebration of an idea.
Yeah,
Right?
Back to the Future did it before that did.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Happy
true.
Days did it before Stranger Things.
Yeah. And
Stranger
I'm doing
Things-
that in my comics.
Yeah. So I mean,
Tuesday, I don't
it's
know.
the thing about Stranger Things. I don't want to get talked about. Stranger
I'm
Things
just pointing out that Something Is Killing the Children is not
Yeah,
doing
I understand
the nostalgia
Yeah.
explosion that Stranger Things does. This one is just about. I'm not saying like there's fairy tale characters, but it's like I said, it is trying to
It's a
evoke
modern
this
day
sort of,
fairy tale.
yeah, it's trying to evoke
especially
that sort of,
that first draft Grimm's fairy tales.
yeah, that's what it's I think really trying to, and it's basically like, oh, the first draft Grimm fairy tale is in fact what is coming after the kids. And so yeah, I guess that's all I've got to say about that one. So okay, are we ready to wrap up with, like I said, and I don't
Yeah.
know if
The only thing we have left is Ice Cream Man.
Yeah,
Are we ready?
I don't know if I'm exaggerating when I say this might be the worst comic book I have ever read in my entire life. It's up there. It's at least up there, I think, in the top 5.
So here is, I will tell you my first issue with this. It starts on page 1, and it says 1-page horror stories. There is not a single horror story in this entire book. Not one.
It's kind of like on the level of Goosebumps was technically horror.
No,
No,
I think that's doing a disservice to
Goosebumps is
Goosebumps.
scary.
I think Goosebumps actually delivered narratives. It's hard to
Yes.
say that even a single story happens in this entire book at all. It's more
Right,
again, I said
right.
vibes. This entire anthology piece is nothing but can I channel a vibe? I mentioned this. Did I mention this live? But I said before there's a joke, and the joke goes that a comedian is telling jokes and a guy comes and watches, and the comedian says 47 and everyone laughs, and he says 74 and everyone laughs, and the guy watching is just like, what the heck is going on? So eventually the guy who's watching says 29 and everyone is silent, and then he's like, what's going on? And says the crowd says, well, you told it wrong. And so the conceit behind the silly joke is the fact that the comedian in this example didn't have to actually tell the joke. The audience knew everything by heart to the point where he only needed to signal the most minimalist signal in order for people to get everything that they were desirous of. In our completely mass pop culture society, we've had so much of it poured down our throats and we've consumed so much of it for so long, we're actually starting to hit these points.
It's meme culture.
And unfortunately, creators are starting to get very lazy. This is the laziest comic I've ever read, because as opposed to doing anything to set up what horror is or terror is or suspense is, it's the Spirit Halloween version or the Walmart version of going, on Halloween where it's like, hey, it's Halloween, put spiders and skeletons everywhere, therefore it's scary.
Yeah.
There's no context. There's no even ghost story there. I put skeletons on the page, therefore you automatically do all the work of the story yourself. It's just tropes. That's what Nanji said. Yeah. So that's what this comic is. It's nothing but the outside trappings put
Right.
on top in one-page bits, and you're supposed to do everything yourself.
So, and one thing I want to
Crowdfunded
say is
storytelling.
one thing I want to point out too is like I am not so arrogant to think that that tropes are in any way like a bad thing, right?
Right.
I
Oh yeah.
love like I was just talking about with someone
Were
who's
there
killing the
really any
children,
tropes
right?
in this though? It was more
I
like
love formula fiction because there are certain aspects of it that if once you have the formula down, then you can play with the features and you can make
Right.
something different out of it, right?
Exactly.
But I appreciate tropes. I appreciate those cliches, those kinds of stated and assumed aspects to it. My big problem with this book is that none of the things to one of the things you said is they put spiders on the page and expect you to be scared, right? They're not doing anything with them, and even there are a couple places where there's genuine stories, I would say, but even with that, it's like it robs all of the it uses sarcasm to rob the any terror or fear that goes in there. Before we get in here, I want to spend a little bit of just a quick second,
go ahead.
Twitless. We've talked about this at the show before, but we were talking about it. In our group chat.
Yeah.
Horror, terror, suspense, and ghost stories. Those are actually different things that are all connected, that are all like tangential, right? But they're not the same thing.
Yeah, you can play with some different definitions, like suspense and terror. I think sometimes get defined as the same. But the point is that depending on how you define it, not all horror is exactly the same. You are dealing with some different concepts. You are dealing, for example, just to break it down lay terms, the jump scare. Which is just boo, a ghost, or not even a ghost, just boo something that just jumped in front of you. The ghost story is a narrative that's meant to spook you, kind of give you some chills, because we're telling the story about someone who's died and who haunts the haunting, right?
The uncanny.
The suspense has to do with typically from a literary perspective, if I may get so didactic, you get the what's called dramatic irony, which is the fact that you know something the character doesn't. And if you know it and the character doesn't, you start to get worried. And the more you see that play out, this is what happens in a lot of Hitchcock films, by the way, you know what's coming, or you suspect what's coming, but the character does not, or the character has less information than you do, and that's what makes you kind of nail bite. And so this often leads between the slow burns. Now, I will also, on top of that, add my kind of own personal takeaway from horror, which is to be horrified. And in order to be horrified, you must have a either normative or moral dimension. Because to be horrified means that something in your value system is being challenged or violated. And so horror can often have nothing to do with ghosts, but it can be to realize that someone that you trusted for many years is in fact evil and has been corrupting someone.
The Bluebeard story.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. A great example of this, that actually is a ghost story, would be Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which is the real horror isn't the fact that she is or is not seeing ghosts. It's the fact that she has a really creepy fascination with a young boy she's watching. And so as the story goes, you start becoming more horrified at realizing, oh gosh, oh no. And that's horror. Horror is, in order to be horrified, you must have a value system or a normative system to be violated or horrified at. So that is what. So really effective horror will usually, again, you could obviously see how these elements can interweave. You can have a ghost story like Henry James that has horrifying elements in it, and also maybe perhaps you have a story that has suspense and a jump scare. The problem is that when you reduce everything to just oversimplified trappings, and I would almost say it's even worse than just tropes. At a certain point, it's just bare minimum archetypes, like set dressing. So actually, could you share my screen? Actually, I've got this in.
This is actually a perfect example, and this is one specifically by the main writer
Yeah.
of Ice Cream Man.
Yeah, so this is by it's oh crap, what's his name again? It's
Maxwell Prince.
Prince. This is by Prince. So this is a one-page horror story. Little Billy fell down the well, but he never hit the bottom. Oh, look, there's a spider. I mentioned spiders. Look, there's a spider and a monster or something. That's the one-page horror story, kids. What is this? What am I reading? This is a waste of space. This is nothing. It's not like we've critiqued stories before. We've gotten mad at in chat about someone being cringe. But at least when those people did things, they actually did things. This comic manages to be 40 pages or something of almost nothing. I cannot stress enough how this is the worst thing I've ever read because it is nothing upon nothing.
Right.
And the only times
this could be a very interesting first line in something.
Sure, absolutely.
But on its own, it's nothing.
So the pitch of this series, it's an anthology series, and there's a spooky ice cream man, and he's always kind of he's the Link, kind of like the time traveler is in
or like the horror host. If you House of the House of Mystery, House of
see, those characters were hosts. This guy's actually part of the narrative. So he's actually spurring it on. He's a character. But here there's an ice cream teddy bear. Who gives a crap? There's nothing in this page.
And this is also this particular issue too. Later, Tank, thanks for tuning in while you could.
That robot says this feels like satire. Is there a twist? I wish. I think the twist is whoever bought this.
Like the games and the backgrounds of movies.
That's the thing. Do not several of these seem almost like they're supposed to be jokes rather than?
Some of them are. Some of them are. No, that's true.
I specifically want to address that too in a second, but the first thing I want to go ahead and do is before I do that is so there are 43 pages or whatever it is on here. I don't even remember 24.
It is.
And
it's only 20. It's only 20. I said 40. It's only 24.
It's only 24.
It felt much longer.
But there's the it's like an all-star cast. You've got Grant Morrison writing a couple. You've got Matt Fraction wrote at least one. Kelly Sue DeConnick wrote one. Jeff Johns.
Dennis Camp again.
Dennis Camp. And his wasn't the worst thing I've ever read. Patton Oswalt, Jeff Lemire also wasn't the worst thing I've ever read. Frank Barbary, good old Neon, who is the letterist for this series, wrote something that's a nothing. I mean, it's an interesting graphic, but it's a nothing. And so it's like one of these things where it's like, one of the things that I want to go ahead and share here. Give me just a second to pull this one up here, because this is the other thing is you're talking about, are some of these jokes? Yes, they are.
Which one are you looking at? I'll pull it up if you don't.
No, the first one. Right?
The baby piano.
Okay, yeah. So that the song that gets played at your funeral.
Right. So he guy's saying he's haunted by this piano player, goes everywhere wearing, and he says he's wearing a Bach getup, but it's not. They didn't have these kind of clothes when Bach was around. So I finally asked him, "What's that tune, man? It's a song that we played at your funeral," and he was totally right. Whoa, dude!
But
I guess that's not only not scary, it's stupid. And
it's nothing. It's another nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing there.
There are elements that could make a decent ghost story, right? But there's
absolutely. There's a version of Tales from the Crypt or Tomb of Horror that does something with this. That works.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's like Prince feels the need to show his cards from panel 1, right? So it's just like there's no subversion. There's not even it's nothing, and so many of the things are like that throughout this whole work. And then you got Grant Morrison stuff's all just super self-important.
His was I read Dante.
Yeah, I read Dante one time. Or I read the Wikipedia article of
exactly. Thank you.
All right, this is Grant Morrison's. Okay, Grant Morrison's is almost nothing. it's just above nothing, which is, hey, the day hell froze over, it basically just reads things in opposite, like, oh, we actually started caring about each other, hell froze over, ha ha ha, or something. Like, it's just,
Which
again,
is like, once again, that's just the whole thing is just, this is just a big joke, right? It's a Reddit tier
oh yeah,
joke.
but I will say that it's just above nothing, but with Prince, it's literally zero, and at least with Grant Morrison, it's like 0.25. You know what I mean? It's like the bar is, Prince sets the bar so low that when you get just above nothing, it's actually a little noticeable. I don't necessarily like this; it's dumb, but I'm like, at least Grant Morrison communicated something. That story with the well communicates nothing. Oh no,
Yes.
this one. Oh gosh.
Okay.
The leftist meme.
So I'm not going to go over this point by point.
Hey guys, do you remember comics, the visual medium? How about we fill an entire page with text?
Well, okay, first of all, I'm not necessarily against that in certain settings. I remember comics that had prose stories that are fit in there, right?
I know. I'm just.
However, the thing about this, right? For sale, baby shoes never worn, right? That's that famous one sentence story that Steinbeck, Hemingway, I can't remember, supposedly wrote. So this dude
Gloria
takes this
Steinem?
thing that's supposed to be an exercise in brevity, talking about the very bare minimum of plot. What can your brain do to fill in the details and all this sort of stuff, right? And makes it this huge, long,
nothing.
Antinatalist screed.
It's still
where
a
it
nothing.
talks about
there's still a nothing. It says nothing.
It's
I
the thing is,
I would argue. I don't even think it does the antinatalist thing. She has the kid.
She has the kid, but she has the kid after 24 months. She's 24 months pregnant. The child already could speak. It's surly and rude. This is the kind of dream a first-time mother who doesn't know if she's going to be a good mother might have. Right? That is, it is put out there to put the mind or to encourage people who don't want to have kids, that it's justified for them to not want to have kids because, oh my God, this is horrifying.
I think you're reading too much into this. This is literally just stream of consciousness. It's just, I needed to fill a page. There's nothing communicated here. I don't even think it communicates a message at all. What's the message? There is no message.
I just what is
I don't even think the antinatalist message comes through. There's nothing here. It's just it's just like words, haha at the end. Please buy these things for me. I want them out of my house. She didn't say never have kids. It's just dumb. There's nothing here. It's absolutely nothing. It's a wasted page. It's wasted space. It accomplishes nothing. It doesn't even accomplish propaganda. At least some of the other comics we read have at least attempted propaganda. This isn't even propaganda. It's nothing.
Okay. Well, I do disagree.
It's nothing, Ganda.
But that's fine. We don't need to go on to it anymore because there's nothing worth talking about with it.
Oh, here's a page about like, oh, a guy survives a bunch of stuff and then he doesn't.
Yeah, this is Matt Fractions. It is a nothingness. It is not scary. It is nothing.
That's just called life.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. And look, look. Hey, but did you notice in that panel right there? There's a skeleton. Therefore, it's horror.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Where there's now this one. Oh.
It's almost as if the entire comic has been building up to this.
So this
if this was the last page, I would agree with you. I just think these things are put in at random.
This one attempts to say, it just simply puts the newspaper page of Trump winning. By the way, Trump won the popular vote. And it says, it thinks that by putting this and saying basically nothing else, that it's making a point. This is why I liked this page here. Makes me appreciate Daniel Warren Johnson's Batman Annual. Because at least when Johnson did it, Johnson knew. He kind of like sheepishly kicks his feet and says, yes, I'm having a temper tantrum, and I know it, and I feel a little ashamed. And this guy's like, I'm being clever. Look how high on my farts I am. And I'm like, I would much rather listen to the guy who's like, yeah, I know I'm a little out of line.
Really, the most horrifying thing about this is that it's nothing different than I see 10 times a day on Reddit.
There you go. But he thinks he's being clever. And he's
Yeah.
being nominated. This is
Well,
being
and then
nominated
here-
for an Eisner. Oh my gosh.
And then here we also have Kelly Sue DeConnick wrote a piece where a woman contemplates divorce, and that's supposed to be a horror story.
Wait, is that what this one is?
I believe that's what
Go
this
to the
is.
start. I thought this was a trans allegory.
At this
Or
point, I've given up.
I think this one might be referencing trans. Okay, because read the line where it says, her husband Mark is traffic manager, middle management. They had 3 children. Now they have 2. He used to say Heather's name, but we don't anymore. Most have theories. The ones that don't have chosen to forget. But she still has a mailbox that she clearly receives mail from this child who is not spoken of anymore. So that's clearly child who's either fallen out or this is some sort of like, reference to. I'm reading really hard between the lines. I was like, oh, this is.
They have 3 children out of that too. See, I assumed she was contemplating divorce after her child died.
No, but she's still getting mail.
Yeah, you can get mail.
From?
If you're trying to set up a new life, that's how you do it.
Who would she be getting mail from?
Lawyers.
I read that as because I read that as specifically referencing the child they don't speak of, and it's open ended. I guess.
Yeah.
I point out,
So
I didn't even read this one, and I can already tell this. This is not a comic. The images give you absolutely nothing in this. If you took these images out, you could still just read the story in prose, and it would be what it is.
So again, as I agree largely, this is another nothing. It's just there's a, as Reese and I have gone back and forth, there's a seed of telling something, even if we didn't agree with it. There's something you could tell that might be worth like 5, at least interesting, or at least saying something, even if we disagree with it. It says nothing. This story also says nothing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this isn't even a story, but it does have some decent body horror at the last couple panels.
Look, he melted. Isn't that scary? That, by the way, that story right there is trying to connect to the ice cream man as a concept, because he's like a scary Mephistopheles sort of character, I think. And,
this is Jeff Johns, by the way, guys.
And so this guy actually references, he's making his own ice cream, because the idea is that the people, I think, who get ice cream from the ice cream man, bad things happen to them. So this one's a little more like you need to like read the series, I think, to get a little bit of what's going on there. But again,
there's a series. Is it a series?
43 issues long. I do not understand how this thing is 43 issues long.
It hurts.
Okay.
All right.
So I don't want to sit through all the ones that we hate, right? But I do want to talk about the 2 that I did not hate.
Yeah. You go ahead and pull
this
those
one.
I noticed that you said did not hate, not like.
Did not hate. I almost like it, but I don't. Because these aren't horror, so it's still not in. It's not in the genre that it claims to be in, right? But here we have, this is Dennis. What's his name, right? Who the everybody's favorite, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this illustration, this slasher, right? Who runs from the cops, and there we go, right?
That's definitely a EC Comics bit.
Yep.
And once again, I'm sorry guys, but like the entire story could be summed up in this one final panel. That's all you have to do is just draw that.
I'm pretty sure the EC Comics, I think there's like a cover to like an EC Comics issue or something, and it basically does this exact thing as like the cover image. Like the kid's reading the comic and the kid is within the comic getting, about to be, eaten or something. I think that's essentially what that is. But it's not terrible. It's again, I would argue, as Reese is saying, it's doing something that's more than nothing. Isaac says it would have been the same as him saying that in the saying and scariest thing you will ever see and have it mirror you. Why is she returning the key and not renewing the lease?
That's a good question. I don't understand that. The call came from inside the house. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, right. Which is fine.
So this one here is also egregious because it's a little biopic. You can tell because there's real photos.
Yeah.
This artist and writer Zoe, whatever her name is, her brother's dead, and that's sad. And that's as far as a memoir, it's perfectly fine. As far as anything else, it's just not and doesn't belong in a horror book.
I don't know what to say about that one. It's haunting. So
It's haunting.
It's doing the like it's haunting imagery. That the kid in the black, but you can't see his eyes. That's a haunting image. I do think it's kind of garish to channel that in this context. This is a nothing burger of a joke of a horror anthology, and you're gonna put your actual serious do you see what I'm saying? It almost trivializes.
Yeah, but the thing is, it trivializes. But here's a situation that I have to come into, because I agree that it does trivialize it for us, right? Like for Zoe has an opportunity to tell her story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's obviously some sort of catharsis that's going involved with this, right? So I'm not going to sit there and tell Zoe that she shouldn't have told the story, or shame Zoe because of the friends she has, other than they're probably bad people, but we're all bad, so that's what I'm talking about. But I definitely see a world where Zoe may come to regret that down the road.
Yeah, there's something really cynical about, hey, I'm making a really like this cheap consumer product for profit. Put your dead brother in it in a way that isn't like a memorial, but like in context meant to be kind of like in this joke of a I don't know, it's baffling. Can you share mine real fast? I do want to share, at least for our audience sake, at least a glimpse of the Ice Cream Man himself. This is again Prince's own work, and it's also kind of stupid and kind of a nothing, because he says, hey, look to the left, look to the right, turn the comic upside down. I control you. Ha ha ha. It's like,
so the funniest thing for me about this one is because I can read upside down.
Yeah,
I didn't turn it over.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
yeah,
you stupid bastard.
So that's the Ice Cream Man.
Maybe the most horrifying thing about all this is just having to read all these comics.
Yeah, I know, right? This is, like I said, I read this. I think I tweeted jokingly on Twitter. I said, "Is it possible to give the opposite of an Eisner to a comic? Because I want to, whatever the opposite of an Eisner is, I want to give it to Ice Cream Man."
That would be a Ren CI.
I think I know what I want to do for 2027.
Okay.
And become a feature at the High Plains Minicon.
No.
Oh, do the opposit of the Eisners?
The opposite of the Eisners. It's like the Razzies, but it's for
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we need a Razzies for comics.
The Plunger, a Crazy Steve Award.
If you want to be insulting, we call it like who's like the worst person in comics. We just call it their name. But
I'm starting to think that's Maxwell Prince.
Yeah, right. We call it a Prince Award. But yeah, that this is one of the worst comics I've ever read. Not just because it's insulting in its political takes or whatever. It's because it's supposed to be one-page horror stories, and it doesn't even manage to do anything. It just throws things at you and expects that because it says on the lid that it's horror, and it put a couple spiders in some spots, that therefore it qualifies as horror. I didn't read anything in this comic that made me horrified about myself or the human condition. I mentioned before, horror will often tell you something maybe even true or reveal something about yourself, human nature, or your fellow man that you didn't want to know. That's what makes you horrified.
Yep. I mean, it's like the Twilight. That's one of the classic tricks of the Twilight Zone, right? Neighbors at the end. I mean, the monsters at the end of the block, right? Are we the ones?
Right. Learning something about yourself. Yeah.
And one of the great things about that script is like, is it's judgy, but it's not like exclusionary in that. It's just like, it's a genuine like question about the human condition and not like some sort of like judgy statement about society.
I'll put it to you this way: if you paid me, I could write a really awesome lefty horror story about the Trumpies. I could do it, and I could actually show you why they are horrified at Trumpers. And I would actually do a better job than these people are doing, because this guy literally just threw up, "Oh, Trump won again, therefore horror." It was like nothing again. It was like, I know why you're horrified. I could tell you a story about why you think you're horrified. I would do a real good job because I know why. That's what I'm saying, is that this is incompetence, and it is laziness of the highest order. And that is something that at least in this case, I'm finding more unforgivable than, oh, cringe politics. This is lazy. This guy is showing up and collecting a paycheck and putting a spider on the cover and saying, "I scared you." That is not just insulting to political sensibilities. That insults my intellect. It insults my time. It insults me as a human being, because you're saying that my laziest effort is worthy enough of being considered a genre piece of storytelling, and I find that to be the most offensive thing of all.
Oh, worse than that, it's supposedly worthy of an award.
Oh, right. On top of all of that, to add insult upon insult, this lazy piece of trash, and I'm talking like Reese now. This lazy piece of
I'm rubbing off on you.
This lazy piece of trash, and again, I do not use that term often. This lazy piece of trash is being nominated for comics' highest award, and I'm seeing red. So...
Yes.
And honestly, in a way, that's how I have felt about every comic we've read tonight. I mean, I look back on those awful comics we reviewed 2 years ago, and it's like every one of them at least had something they were trying to say.
Uh-huh.
With the exception of that Star Trek one.
Even that was it knew what it wanted, right?
Yeah, yeah. I have to give it that much. It was dumb and retarded, but it wanted to say it had a message.
I would like. Are we? Wait a minute. Do you have more to go on this?
Yeah, I do want to hit this one, this Jeff Lemire one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which Switless and I were arguing about before the show started.
Sure.
I was 8 when my aunt drowned in our pool. I was the only one swimming with her, and I climbed out of the pool. I was going to show off and jump in to try to impress her, and that's when I saw her just floating there. At first, I thought she was joking around, but then I realized. I ran to the house and yelled to my mom, and she came running. As soon as an ambulance came, they tried to bring her back, but she was already gone. She was gone, and I know it. I saw them put her in the back of the ambulance and drive away, but she's not gone. She's always there floating. And I just know that she ain't never going to stop floating. Right. And
to be fair, this is pretty horrifying, but it's also just like real life.
Yeah. It doesn't have to not be. This is in terms of like,
it's haunting.
I
call that haunting.
It's haunting, right? I would agree that it definitely. I can see horrifying being an appropriate word, but I also understand you saying, well, it's not really horrifying, but it's haunting.
Sure.
But this, at least, like, it has a beginning, middle, and an end. It's got that uncanny, trauma aspect to it. I think this was the only, maybe, but the standout in this whole book.
It's in better taste than the one who actually has to do with my brother actually died, because this is just a made up story. Yeah, it's basically the same thing as that one.
Maybe.
Why is the pool filled with Mountain Dew? So is the sky. So I think that it's supposed to be reflecting that sky and be.
They're just trying to give you that ominous yellow color.
Yeah, yellow is an unhealthy color. It's vibe. It's if you color this comic differently, it changes a chunk of the meaning. It's going off of horror. The vibe is what they're doing here. It's meant to vibe it.
Yeah.
I just looked at it and thought it was pissed. But that's
So
Nanji says, the constraint. Here's the thing. So Nanji brings up an interesting point, but I want to push back a little bit on that. Nanji says that part of the problem, or the constraint here, is that they're one page. I would argue to say that I think if you gave Eisner these awards, the namesake, if you said, Eisner, give me a one-page horror story, I think he'd do it. I think he would give you a one-page horror story, and I think because that guy knew how to work a page, he knew how to work space, and I think you could get a real contract with God moment narrative, and I think he could pull it off.
Well,
That's
think
another
about
thing that I
this.
find to be so insulting about this is that they're clearly like barely even trying. And again, it's like, oh hey, this feels like such award show bait. You know what I mean? Like they call it Oscar bait, where it's like you release a movie in
Yes.
February and you make it about trauma or something, and it's like it's a shoe-in for the awards because when you released it. And so it's like you're fishing for the award. This feels like, hey, I have this horror anthology series. Let me invite a bunch of my friends at San Diego Comic-Con. Let's do a one-shot thing, and we'll do this one-page bit, and that's going to get us. We're going to win an award. And again, they all phoned in the laziest thing they could all do, and it's like in bande dessinée. Was it Drouillet? Knows how to work a page. He could tell a one-page horror story and actually work it. There are a lot of, I think, other like Mobius, like the French people could run circles. This is so lazy, and it's like do a little homework, do a little prep work. You can really do some things with this.
And there was one story in here too. I already closed out of it, but
Yeah.
that was the closest that Prince comes to actually telling a story. And it's about a mother who's lost her son.
I've got it. If you want to.
But the thing about it is though, is like, it's just the same, baby shoes never worn story, only with more words.
Yeah. Well,
So
maybe less words. I think there's actually less words.
More words?
No, I meant more words than the actual.
Oh, okay.
That is
Less
hard.
words than his version. Yeah.
Right. There's no difference in content. This just takes longer took longer to pound out. So then you have the situation where, so this fellow just is going back to the same well he already pissed in earlier.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Prince is the laziest of the bunch. At least the other people are, I think they actually try a little harder than he does. Prince in his stories is phoning it in so hard that, like I feel like I'm getting the telephone bill, and it's just. It's the most offensive laziness I think I've ever seen in comic book form, and that's saying a lot. This is an insult. This is an absolute insult.
There's a whole weaponized cringe. I'll not be voting for this one. So, is there anything else to talk about with the Eisners?
Yes. We need to mention like who we think deserves the bloody award in this category.
On that note, before you do that, then I would like to nominate my own. Or give my own nomination for a comic I've just discovered today. If you wouldn't mind putting my screen up here.
Sure.
I haven't swapped over to it yet, but go ahead and set it up. I think it was Marm who was presenting this, and this is a one-shot, and it might be considered part of the horror genre, and it is better than every comic we have talked about tonight combined. So go ahead.
The really low bar, I think.
Well, first of all, you're really setting it up.
No. It's like you said, low bar, but
yeah, the bar.
Go ahead, put it up.
It's real low bar.
We still have this.
Yeah, so I'm going to switch now.
Okay.
Okay, this is a little comic I helped write and illustrate with a small child. They did pictures, and then I did the rest of the drawings in the comic on like page 3 based on their suggestions. But the basic plot, I remember, was written by the child, and I did the lettering. So I'm going to present it now. Silent establishing shot of our two protagonists. One appears to be being attacked by a scribble monster. Second establishing shot, our protagonists are now free from the face-eating scribble monster. Hey, yo! Thanks for helping me with that face-eating scribble, school. Enter giant face-eating scribble monster. They run away. We didn't know it was your son. No, look. Okay, there's the face-eating scribble monster. There's the baby face-eating scribble monster. Dropped by the kid. Thanks, Mom. Next time, eat your face with broccoli. Yuck, says the face-eating scribble monster child. I guess I didn't stop the monster, says one of our hapless heroes. At least you saved my face, says his bro. So, wait, how do I get my son to eat broccoli? All the people run away. I don't want to eat broccoli, Mom. I want face. You'll stunt your growth. And they run away. Have you tried cheese? Says one of the guys. Yuck, face with cheese, says the child monster, as the mother monster opens its maw, preparing to eat them alive. No, cheese with broccoli, says one of the dudes. Face-eating scribble monster mama pauses. Nope, says the child face-eating scribble monster. They make cheese and broccoli for the child face-eating scribble monster, and the mom's got an apron on that says Scarf, the child facing squirrel monster, eats down the broccoli with cheese. I love broccoli and cheese, says the child face-eating squirrel monster. Mom's so happy. Everyone's pleased. And Mom says, my big boy, in their little hearts. And the guy says, you saved my face. All right, that's the show, everyone.
That is an excellent story, Cartoonicus. That was not from 2025.
But unmerited, but certainly 10 out of 10, no notes.
Maybe he can catch it if he republishes it. Maybe we can do that for the republished editions in 2027.
So it's getting kind of late. So let me briefly let's land the plane here with because Eisner Awards, one of these is going to win it. I love to do what we did last time, which is who do we think will win it, and who do we think should win it. Now last time we did this, I was hoping that the Nightwing comic would win, but I was actually wondering if the weird queer porn would actually win. Nightwing won. So actually, that's a little bit of a white pill. That sometimes the awards pan out a little bit better than we think. Unfortunately, this year the selection seems to be a little less great. So, but who wants to go first? Who do we think should win? Who do we think will win from this?
None of them should win. I will not pick a winner out of any of this. Okay, no.
Okay, all right. Who do you
as
think?
far as who I think will win? I hate to be negative, but if anything, I think all these nominations show just how much harder we are pushing since the last time we talked about the Eisners. And for that reason, I feel like the Absolute Batman will stand out the most with its, Nazi portrayal of anything conservative. And that's what they're going to be trying to praise.
I think that no one is something is killing the children should win. I don't think Batman is artsy enough, so I don't think that will take it because that is a huge conceit amongst the voters. So I kind of suspect that alternate.
I'm forgetting that we actually have individual voters and not just like.
Yeah.
You think Assorted Crisis?
I think Assorted Crisis may be the one that takes it.
Okay. All right. Who do I think should win this? Ice Cream Man. No. Okay. Who should win it? Oh, that's hard. I almost feel like my should and my will are almost the same. Maybe.
Wow.
I think Absolute Martian Manhunter is my pick for one who will win it. I think it's so trippy and psychedelic. I think that's gonna tickle award fancies really
I have a
hard.
hard. It's also so simple. Ironically, though, I have a hard time believing that it's going to catch enough people's interest.
I know
Especially
it does.
right off
It
the
does.
bat.
It does the meta bit about oh, see the comic transparency thing, and like last time we did this, the whole like committing to that bit is what won at Nightwing. So I think my gut says I wouldn't be surprised if any of y'all's predictions are true either. But I don't know. I feel like Marsh because I feel like there's this the absolute comics series is getting a lot of attention. It's good for the industry. I think the Eisners want to give some attention to that because it's actually like driving sales, and a lot of comics are suffering in sales, and so I think there might be even a sort of conscious or subconscious desire to kind of give some, that tide that raises all boats. So I completely agree with Reese that Absolute Batman does not have enough to make it stand out as award worthy. I don't think. I mean, if you want to like really push the Trump hating, I feel like Ice Cream Man would be your.
Well, like I said,
because-
I'm kind of maybe taking that back because I'm forgetting we actually have individuals like Reese doing the voting.
If it were Trump hatred, it would be Ice Cream Man because that one just literally just puts Trump on the page and says ha ha ha, it's horror.
It also has enough different people that are involved that I think that would be like you said. I mean, I believe the book was put together as a award bait.
Award bait. If Ice Cream Man wins, I will. I'm gonna burn down a comic book store. Like that one can't win. That one is an insult to comics. So I know that one's not winning. I think Absolute Manhunter and the one that should win, I almost feel like it should win too, even if it wasn't my favorite, just because it's doing the artsy fartsy and it's doing trying to do some clever things.
And just because in this day and age we have to actually make sure we say this, folks, he was kidding when he talked about Joe burning down the comic book store.
No, in real life. That's I think Manhunter is my pick for both. That's all I got.
Okay. Cool. Well, guys, that sounds great. Stardust the Super Wizard Anthology for Best Anthology category.
Isaac says, "What about the controversial one? What's that reference?"
Yeah, I think that's the one. Controversial Stardust the Super Wizard
okay.
Anthology for Best Anthology category.
I like Stardust the Super Wizard. That's some fun stuff.
Oh, did they use AI to do some color corrections or something on it?
Oh, what? Is there a controversy about Stardust the Super Wizard by using it?
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
I didn't know that. That's weird. There's already been like I think 2 collections. There's I Will Destroy All the Civilized Planets, and then there's just like the collected works I think of Fletcher Hanks. So why would you need?
I don't know.
I guess I'm gonna have to look into Stardust the Super Wizard.
Well, anyway, it is 2 days till the voting closes, so wish me luck to get enough reading done to vote on more than one category.
Oh, that's right. You're not voting in this category.
I'm hoping to vote in several categories, but we'll see if I can pull it off or not.
If you do vote in this category, what are you going to choose? Oh yeah, we know.
Somebody's killing the children. I think that's the best single issue. It tells beginning, middle, and end. It keeps up with genre constraints while telling genuine drama. I think the artistry in the book is the most consistent. I think it's the best one. So, I'd be tempted toward Absolute Martian Manhunter if it actually had told a story in the issue instead of just being like a bunch of scenes to lead up to the next thing. But if it had been a real simple story, that'd have been something. But I think something's killing the children. So that's the one I'll be voting for.
Sure.
So much for the secret ballot.
Wizard allegations. Okay, I will check that out.
You're out here campaigning for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So anyway, guys, I got to call the show. I'm much later than I want it to be. So we will check you guys all around. We have something we're gonna do next week, but I can't remember what it was. So surprise. And until then, this is Oh, we're talking about Superman, Spider-Man. That's what it was.
Yes, that's gonna be fun.
Yes, I remembered. Okay, that's it. This is a show. Good night. Bye. from the satellite studio, this is Reese signing off. You guys have a great one.